Meghan's luxury women's retreat in Sydney was supposed to be her triumphant comeback tour. Sold out, exclusive, $3,000 a head. But in the last 48 hours, 3 separate things have gone wrong. And one of them is so embarrassing that even Page 6 is struggling to spin it in her favor. And meanwhile, the real royal family just gave us one of the most beautiful Easter moments in years. Welcome back, my Royal Rogues. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Royal Rogue, and happy Easter to each and every one of you. Now, before we dive into the Harkle's chaos, and trust me, there's plenty, I need to take a moment, because yesterday, William, Catherine, and the kids attended the Easter Matins service at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. And I know I say this every time, but George has grown so much. He's 12 now, standing there in his navy suit with that light blue tie, and he's almost as tall as Catherine. Almost. Charlotte coordinated with her mom in this beautiful cream and brown coat, and Louis, bless him, matched with his brother and his father. The whole family looked radiant. And here's the thing, this was their first Easter at St. George's Chapel since 2023. They missed 2024 because of Catherine's diagnosis. They celebrated privately in 2025 in Norfolk. So this return, the 5 of them walking in together, Catherine looking healthy and elegant, the kids looking happy, it hit different. It really did. You could feel the warmth. You could feel the family. Just a family walking into church on Easter Sunday, and the whole country exhaled. Beautiful. Truly beautiful. But now let's talk about the sausages. All right, so Meghan's Her Best Life retreat in Sydney, 3 days at the Intercontinental Koji Beach, April 17th through the 19th. A ticket ranging from about $1,900 for the early bird all the way up to $3,200 for the full VIP experience, which, by the way, includes twin share accommodation, meaning you share a hotel room with a stranger for $3,000. So the event was marketed as sold out, exclusive, waitlisted. You couldn't get in if you tried. That was the whole pitch. Scarcity marketing at its finest. Spots are limited. This is your sign. All that nonsense. But then something very interesting happened. The podcast account, Her Best Life Pod, posted an announcement that said, and I'm paraphrasing here, the hotel has kindly released a handful of additional rooms, including solo options. They even added a little emoji and the words, "We heard you asking." Now, credit where it's due, the eagle-eyed Sabira Lone caught this immediately and pointed out the obvious. Tell us, your 300 limited event is not sold out without telling us your 300 limited event is not sold out. And according to Dash, jumped on it too, joking that at this rate they will do cavity searches on attendees to make sure nobody snuck in a microphone. But here's the real takeaway. If your event was genuinely sold out, the hotel doesn't kindly release extra rooms. That is not how sold-out events work. What does happen is that people cancel, people demand refunds when they find out they have to share a room with someone they have never met, and suddenly you have got empty seats you need to fill. So you repackage the cancellations as additional availability and pray that your audience doesn't notice. Guess what? Your audience noticed! Let me be clear, this scarcity tactic has been flagged before. People on TikTok pointed out that when you join the so-called exclusive waitlist, you got accepted within minutes. Minutes! So that is not a waitlist. That is a mailing list with extra steps. So the whole thing was designed to create the illusion of demand, and when the demand didn't match the illusion, they had to quietly open the doors wider while pretending they were doing you a favor. Classic Meghan. The brand is always bigger than the reality. And speaking of reality, did you see the venue video? Because if you haven't, let me paint you a picture. The organizers posted a promotional clip showing the event space for the retreat. The countdown to the Her Best Life retreat is on. Big pink banner. Very exciting. And behind that banner, a conference room, a generic, uninspired hotel conference room with the blue LED ceiling lights, stackable chairs, and folding tables. It looked like the setup for a regional insurance seminar. It looked like the room where you would attend a mandatory HR training about workplace harassment. One commenter said, and this one made me laugh, they can remove most of the chairs already now. $3,000, $3,000, and the venue looks like a Herbalife recruitment meeting. And in all fairness, I have been to Herbalife events that look more glamorous than this. But at least Herbalife puts up some balloons and stuff. Well, this isn't even new information. Reports from a few weeks ago already flagged that the Intercontinental Coogee was still under construction in certain areas. The hotel itself was not fully finished. So not only are you paying premium prices for a shared room and a conversation with Meghan, all right, you're doing it in a venue that may or may not be completely built by the time you arrive. Luxury, empowerment, unforgettable experiences. That's what they promise. And what they are delivering is a half-finished hotel with stackable chairs and a podcast host whose talent agency went into voluntary liquidation, owing over $500,000 to the Australian tax office. So yeah, no, you cannot make this up. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because rather than address any of this, the fake sold-out status, the sad venue, the organizers' financial problems, Meghan's camp has pivoted. Page 6 ran a piece yesterday about an alleged plot to sabotage the retreat. The framing is that online trolls have been threatening to infiltrate the event, record secretly, and dismantle it from within. And look, I'm not going to pretend that there aren't people online who take things too far. There always are. But the timing of this narrative is very convenient. Very convenient. Because what does a sabotage story accomplish? It accomplishes three things. First, it reframes Meghan as the victim. She's not running a struggling event with empty seats. She's a brave woman facing coordinated attacks. Second, it provides a preemptive excuse. If the retreat goes poorly, it wasn't because of bad planning or inflated pricing. It was because of saboteurs. And third, it generates press, because luxury retreat faces security threats is a much better headline than luxury retreat cannot fill seats. So yeah, this is the Harkle's playbook. It has always been the Harkle's playbook. When things go wrong, find an external threat. When the product underperforms, blame the critics. When the numbers don't add up, change the story. We have seen this with Netflix. We have seen this with Spotify. We have seen this with every single venture they have touched. The pattern is always the same. Big promises, mediocre execution, and then a victim narrative to explain why the world is unfair. And I want to point something else out. The article mentions tickets going up to about $3,200 for the VIP tier. For that money, you get a gala dinner billed as a conversation, no, not gonna happen, with Meghan, a group photograph, a goodie bag, and 2 nights in a shared room. Compare that, and I'm not even trying to be mean here, I'm just stating facts. Compare that to the kind of event Catherine or a William event would attend, where the focus is on the cost, not the celebrity. But they don't do that either way. But let's try to imagine this. Where people walk away feeling like they contributed to something meaningful, not like they just funded someone's lifestyle brand. So the retreat is not about empowering women, it's about monetizing access to a title. And now that the access is not selling as well as they hoped, they need a villain. Enter the sabotage narrative right on schedule. And then there's Easter. Because while Catherine and William were at St. George's Chapel with their kids surrounded by family, Meghan posted her own Easter content, a series of Instagram videos showing Archie and Lily doing an egg hunt in the garden at Montecito Manor. Now, I am not showing the video. I won't, but I will say this. Meghan has an absolutely uncanny ability to take something that should be heartwarming and make it feel produced. 2 kids running around a garden on Easter Sunday. That is supposed to be the most natural thing in the world. And yet somehow, the way it was filmed, the way it was posted, the way the comments were turned off, of course, it felt like content. It felt like a mood board. It felt like somebody was checking a box that said, relatable family moment on a PR calendar. And people noticed. The most common reaction online wasn't how sweet, it was how lonely. 2 kids with no cousins, no friends, no extended family, just Archie and Lily in an ginormous garden with their mom filming from behind. One person wrote that the saddest part was watching Lily walk through the garden by herself, carrying a basket, knowing her mother was just following her with a camera. Now, compare that, and I hate to keep making this comparison, but the contrast was right there on the same day. Compare that to George, Charlotte, and Louis walking into church with both their parents, surrounded by their grandparents, their aunt, their uncle. That is family. That is what Easter looks like when you haven't burned every bridge in your life. So Meghan chose California, or California. Meghan chose isolation, and now her children's Easter looks like a photo shoot in an empty garden. I am not saying those kids are not loved. I'm sure they are, but there's something deeply melancholic about watching 2 small children celebrate Easter with no one else around while their cousins are across the ocean, surrounded by an entire family. And Meghan either doesn't see it, or she sees it and doesn't care. Because the content matters more than the connection. And finally, because we need a laugh after all that, the Daily Mail ran a piece where a reporter decided to eat Meghan's favorite foods for a stretch. And roguish, it did not go well. Narrator, it did not go well. Because Meghan's publicly stated diet is one of those California wellness fantasies. Vegan during the week, green juice instead of coffee, chia seed pudding, acai bowls, watermelon with cinnamon, and the occasional treat yourself weekend of poutine and French fries. The reporter tried to follow it. Hot lemon water in the morning, steel cut oats with a bee pollen and agave, green smoothies, almond butter with apple slices, and sea salt for snacks, sashimi for lunch. And you know what happened? The reporter was exhausted, hungry, and cranky. Yeah, that explains Meghan. That explains Meghan. Which, and I say this with love, is exactly how I imagine life at Montecito Manor on a Tuesday. Because this is the thing about Meghan's lifestyle brand. It's aspirational in the way that a magazine ad is aspirational. It looks beautiful in a photograph. It sounds impressive in an interview. But when a real person tries to actually live it, they end up starving by 2 in the afternoon and desperate for a sandwich. And that is his problem with everything Meghan sells. Whether it's a diet, a retreat, a jam, or a podcast, not anymore, or a Netflix show, the packaging is always better than the product. Almost always. Sometimes they compete. The promise is always bigger than the delivery. The marketing is always louder than the substance. $3,000 for stackable chairs in an unfinished hotel. A sold-out event that keeps finding new rooms. A sabotage narrative to cover for low demand. An Easter video that made the internet feel sorry for her kids. And a diet that makes her real people miserable. This is the Meghan Markle brand in April 2026. And what makes it even more remarkable is the contrast. On the same weekend, the same Easter Sunday, had Catherine, who fought cancer, who went through something none of us can fully imagine, walking into church, looking radiant, holding her family together, showing up without fanfare and without a single Instagram post asking for your attention. And then you had Meghan, healthy, wealthy, living in a mansion in California, who somehow somehow managed to make Easter look lonely, made a retreat look cheap, and needed page 6 to write a story about a sabotage just to explain why her event is not working. The gap between those two women has never been wider, and I generally don't know how much longer this can go on before even the Sausage Squad starts asking questions. So what do you think, Rogues? Are you buying the sabotage story? Are you buying the sold out claim? Let me know in the comments. And if you are new here, welcome. We do this every single day. My Roger Rogues, my name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the Roger Rogue. Much love and bliss.